Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be going over the framework that helped me close over $126,000 cash collected with my consulting business. And it's allowed me to hop on sales calls and close at over a 75% rate while charging over 5 figures. So the reason why I'm even making this video is because I see a lot of coaches and agency owners, like this is their main struggle. Like they struggle with this part the most, which is why I'm just going to give away everything. That way you guys know the entire A through Z framework to have your prospects literally telling you to send the payment link at the end of the call with full confidence. So watch this video in full because I'm going to be going over how to pre-handle certain objections before they even come up, and literally just copy it and just use it for yourself. That's literally it. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Okay, so what I've done here is I've broken the framework down into three main parts, right? So the beginning of the call, or what happens before the call, the pre-call routine, and the agenda setting. In the middle of the call, which is the current state, desired outcome, which is where you're going to be finding out where the prospect is, right? Where they currently are, where they want to get to. Okay, so as you guys can see here, I've broken the framework down into three main parts, right? So what happens at the start of the call, which is the pre-call routine and the agenda setting. What happens at the middle of the call, which is their current state and their desired outcome, which is essentially where you're going to figure out like where they are, where they want to get to, and then what are the consequences of not getting there or to their goals. And then finally, the end of the call, which is where you can properly pitch your service and then properly price drop, and make sure that you have no objections. Make sure you've already done all the tie downs, all the pre-handles. That way, literally at the end of the call, as soon as you drop the price, they are asking, okay, send the payment link. Okay, so listen up, guys. This is very, very important. This is the pre-call routine. This is what you want to do before you even hop on the call. Number one, make sure you guys are in a quiet room. I don't want you guys to have a baby screaming behind you, vacuums going off, alarms going off in the back. I don't want that. So number two, make sure you guys have no distractions. So your phone's on D&D, you're completely good, right? Nobody's going to be calling you out of nowhere and you're going to have to leave the call. Like make sure none of that is happening. So before I even hop on the call, there's very, very important things that I want you guys to do. So ensure that the prospect is going to be even joining the call in the first place. So on the morning of, make sure you guys call them confirming the appointment and make sure that they have watched the nurturing videos. You're going to call them on the morning of that appointment date. Very, very important to make sure that they show up. So what the nurturing videos are, and I've made an entire video on this, just to sum it up, it is basically a video that is going to be specifically solving the pain points of your ICP, and you're going to be sending it over to them during the setting process, before they have even booked the appointment. So make sure that they have watched those videos. That way, when they come onto the call, you are already seen as an authority. They know that you can help. You have already helped them before, because they have watched the video. Maybe they have already implemented the stuff in the video and they already have results. They're coming onto the call already nurtured. They like who you are. They know that you can help them. And finally, ensure that payment processor is working. This is very, very important, because if the payment processor is not working, how are you going to take payment, right? And I've seen this happen to so many coaches, so many people. Like they'll literally come to me and they'll be like, hey, the payment processor wasn't working. I booked another meeting for tomorrow. I guess I'll figure them out. And then what happens is the prospect just never comes back. And then they just lost a sale because they didn't have a payment processor working. So make sure, you guys have payment links ready, financing ready. Even if it's a crypto wallet, Zelle, like make sure you have your routing number, account number, like literally on the side, so that in case anything does happen, you can take payment. Okay. So you guys might be asking, what are these three little Post-it notes at the bottom? These are the most important things that you guys need to know in sales. Very, very important. This is the number one mistake that I see people do. They get too stuck up on a script. They're listening to respond, not to understand. So this is what you guys need to listen to understand their pain points. Listen because you actually care, right? Show that you care to your prospect. Because if you sound like you're giving an interview and you're just asking question after question after question, and those questions not having any context of what they're even talking about, in the mind of the prospect, they'd be like, this guy doesn't even care. He's just asking me questions and he's trying to sell me this. So listen to understand, not to respond. Number two, detach yourself from the outcome and think from abundance, not scarcity. Because once you think from scarcity, what you're going to find yourself doing is you're going to be price dropping too fast. You're going to be offering discounts too fast. And you're just going to be scared and you're going to be over explaining your service. The more you over explain about the service, the worse this call is going to go, because the call is not about you or your service. The call is about your prospect and what they're going through and what they need help with, and how the pain points that they're currently going through are affecting their life. That is something that you need to uncover. You need to uncover pain points that are going on in their business or in their personal life, right? And finally, your goal is to help them come to an educated decision that helps them achieve their goals, right? That is what sales is. It is not trying to persuade someone. It's help someone come to a decision, to an educated decision where they know that what you have is going to help them. They're not confused about like, oh, whether this is going to help or not. So basically at the beginning of the call, we start by setting the agenda, right? So how I set it is like, hey, I come onto the call, I ask again, right? Like, hey, how'd you find us? How'd you end up on the call today if you haven't met them already? But like, cool, I sent a few things over when you booked that call in. Like, how'd you like those videos, man? Like, what were your thoughts? Did you look at any other videos? Like, what did you think? So did anything stand out specifically? Like, it doesn't matter. So as you guys can see here, I literally do not talk about the weather. I don't do any small chat. We just get straight into it. And the reason why is because people buy from experts. They don't buy from friends. There's no point in having small talk and trying to be friendly because it's not going to help with the sale at all. So what I do is as soon as they get into the call, I kind of just ask them like, okay, how have they actually watched those nurture videos? Because if they have, they're already pre-closed. And I want you guys to check out that nurture video as well, just so you can have these people come onto the call, knowing who you are, liking who you are, and they're literally ready to buy. This call is pretty basic. My goal is just to assess the business or, what you're going through right now and, see what obstacles you might be facing currently and the goals that you're striving for. And, if there even is a reason for us to step in and offer guidance and support, like we'll walk through what the potential next step would look like and kind of go from there if it's needed. Like, would that help you? Yeah. Okay. And then we just go straight in, right? What exactly were you looking to get out of today's call? Just so I understand. And then once you have the agenda set, we're going to move on to the current state. So this is where you're going to be finding their current vehicle and seeing what results that they're even getting in the first place. This is where you're going to be uncovering their pain points, what they're actually going through. So basically what I'm trying to do here is just find their current vehicle, tangible results, like how that current vehicle is inefficient and find a problem and pain point in their process. So like, what are their KPIs and current benchmarks? So like, how is this current negative KPI or something that's going on in the business or in their personal life? Like, how is it actually impacting them? So your goal is to just go in depth, or maybe they don't even have a certain KPI tracked. Like they don't know their cost per lead. They don't know their cost per book call. They don't know their cost per acquisition. So we just ask the question like, hey, why don't you know that? And why it's actually stayed that way. So what I have is I have a business assessment sheet, and essentially where I have certain things that I want to know about them. So I run a B2B offer. So I essentially just ask them like, hey, what's your service and offer? How many clients do you have? Current revenue, 4-month revenue goal, like history, team. And I ask them like current KPIs, like, hey, do you know these KPIs? If they don't know those KPIs, I literally ask them, why don't they know those KPIs, right? Because they're trying to grow from here to here. At the end of the day, business is just a numbers game. Like one way to double your revenue is just to double your show up rate. Another way to double your revenue is just to decrease your cost per lead by 2, right? And divide that by 2, go from $8 cost per lead to $4 cost per lead. You've just doubled the business. So it's like, why don't you know these numbers? Because if you don't know these numbers, you don't know what to optimize for, right? So essentially you're coming in as an expert, but you're also trying to figure out pain points and problems in their current process and how it's actually affecting them. You probe in deeper on how those pain points are actually affecting them, how long it's been happening. And then once they've opened up about their pain points, how it's affecting them, what you can do here is you can ask them like, what have they done to actually try to solve that pain point? Like, is there anything that they've tried in the past? Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, right? So maybe if they have tried something in the past, you can ask the question like, hey, like, why are you even on the call? Like, why try again? Like, you're on the call. Like some people, they just let one experience define how they view everything moving forward. So I guess like what makes you feel like it can be different? So this type of question is framed in a way where they're going to start catering to you. Like, oh yeah, like I know that it can help, but like the past person just didn't do enough. Maybe I just have to try again. And maybe if they haven't even tried anything in the past on like trying to solve that, whatever their problem is, you can ask them like, hey, what's actually prevented them and what's shifted? Because if they're going through a problem, if they're going through a pain point, and maybe say it's been going on for like 2 years, that current pain point, why haven't they gone out of their way to solve it? So what you want to do is like, you want to pre-handle comfortability here because they're so comfortable at where they're at. They're so comfortable being in pain. Like that is not a good mindset to have. So what you can pre-handle here is you can shift them into an identity of, stepping out of that comfortableness. So essentially how I do that is like this. So like, is that usually how you approach things, right? You make sure that everything feels perfect before you even put it out there. Well, yeah, like, I want to make sure I'm ready. I want to make sure that like things are comfortable, right? So like, can I ask you as a business owner? So this is if like someone is too comfortable to even, make a change, right? You really just ask them the question, where does growth even come from? Is it when you're comfortable or when you feel uncomfortable, right? When you step into that discomfort and do what actually moves things forward. Everything above here, that's catered towards, like, say you're handling a B2B client and they're working on everything that just is not going to move the needle forward. Like, they spent the last 2 months on a website, but they don't have any clients to begin with. But at the end of the day, you want to pre-handle that comfortability because it comes from a place of fear, a fear of like, oh, like things aren't going to work out for me. Like, you want to put them into the identity of someone who steps out into that discomfort because they want to make things work. They want to actually move the needle forward. So like, I asked the question, like, hey, do you feel like Wheel Growth happens when things feel comfortable? Or when you step out into that discomfort and do what actually moves things forward? Like, because like, what happens if we keep having that mindset of making sure things are comfortable and not do the things that actually matter? Oh, we stay the same. So which mindset and shoes do you want to step into? Right? The business owner or the person who falls back into what's familiar and safe for him, or the one who pushes past it and just does it anyways? Oh, the one that does it anyways. Okay, I respect it. And you can even go and double down on that. Like, hey, how much do you think you've actually lost out on if you just went out there and did it? Right? Oh, I've lost out on so much money. Like, I've been doing things that don't matter for 2 years. So essentially what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to put them into a identity of someone who seeks uncomfortability rather than seeks comfortability. So this is something that's going to be building over the course of the call. So now we have the desired outcome, right? So I put into perspective like their next question. So I essentially just use this Usain Bolt analogy and I'll explain how it goes. So I tell the prospect this, I put it into perspective. I'm like, hey, let's put Usain Bolt on a running line. At the end of the finish line, there is a big golden medal that you've been wanting for the rest of your, like for your entire life. There's a big golden medal at the end of the race. Do you think he's going to run fast? And they're going to say, yes, of course. But like, let's change it up a bit, right? Let's put a tiger right behind him. Do you think he's going to run faster? Yeah. Okay. So if he's going to run faster, like, why does he run faster? Oh, because there's a tiger behind him, right? Yeah, there's a big enough consequence to make sure that he does the actions to make sure that, he gets the golden medal. So there's a big enough consequence. So I want to like flip that on you. What is that big golden medal for you, right? And this frames perfectly into the question like, hey, where do they want to be in 3 to 6 months? If everything does get figured out, what does that actually mean for them? What's their golden medal? And then they're going to start going in, into like what their goals are, dive into their personal life. Like, example would be like, oh, what does financial freedom actually mean to you? Right? For me, it means like being able to do this, 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 this. I guess, like, what about you? I'm essentially getting them to that high. I'm getting them to understand where they really want to be, right? Maybe if they say like, oh, I just want like $50,000, right? You can just ask them like, hey, a number is just a number. Like, I'm a firm believer that there's a reason behind every single number. I'm sure, you're not going to be on your deathbed thinking, I wish I made more money. What does that actually mean for you though? And then once we probe in deep into what their goals actually are, they want to retire their parents, they want to go on vacations with their family, and make sure that their child can go to private school, stuff like that. Once you've driven deep into that, you can properly ask the question of what happens if they don't reach that? Like, what is the tiger behind them? What happens if the tiger actually catches up to them? It builds that urgency that like, oh, if I don't get to there, like the tiger's going to get behind me, right? And then what we want to do after that is like ask them if they're willing to settle for that. With that urgency, it's like they need to take action. Are they willing to settle for that undesirable outcome? No, of course not. So if they need to do action to make sure that the tiger doesn't get to them, we ask them the question like, whose responsibility is it to ensure that the worst case scenario, the tiger, whatever they said with the tiger catching up to them, that it doesn't happen? Oh, it's my responsibility to make sure that, my son can go to college, to make sure that I don't go homeless, stuff like that. And then finally, this is a very, very important question. Like, you could be the new year, new me guy. You could just do it like a week down the line, or, kick the can 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months down the road, like most people do. Like, well, why actually do it now? And then they're going to, tell you like, oh, I need to do it now because, I've been in this position for 2 years. Okay, so like, how soon are you looking to get started? Because you need to pre-handle, oh, I'm going to, I need to go think about it. I need to go think about it for a day, or we can get started by next week. You want to pre-handle that objection before it comes up at the end of the call. Like, okay, so how soon are you looking to get started? If they say now, you're like, okay. And then you can pitch, not pitch price, but like you can pitch the service. If they say as soon as possible, like, well, what does as soon as possible mean for you though? Like that's kind of vague. Like, is that today, tomorrow, like this week? If they say later, okay, in a week, like what makes you feel like starting then is the right timing for you? Okay, so like it's not that you don't want to solve that pain point, but it's making sure you want to feel like you're ready, like, that's more comfortable for you. So see what I did here? Rather than me solving the time, like, oh, like let's get started a week from now, and like logistically solving like, oh, what's in a week from now? I solve the objection that I want to handle. So I essentially shift it back into that comfortability, right? But wanting to feel like you're more ready, like that's more comfortable for you. Okay, because like, dude, if you're expecting this to be comfortable for you, like I don't think this is the right program or fit for you. Because like if going from where you are now to where you wanted to go that you just told me about, like that's not comfortable either. Because if it was working, if comfortable was working, like you would have been there already. Like would you still be dealing with what you're dealing with right now? No. Okay, so when we want real change and real growth to happen, like does it happen when we're comfortable, or does it happen when we actually step out of that bubble and challenge ourselves to do the thing that needs to be done? Like, oh yeah, like when we actually step out of that bubble and challenge ourselves, right? Okay, so like let me ask you this: like the version of you who's already achieved that 50K a month, when it felt uncomfortable for them, like did they collapse back into that familiarity, or like did they step out of that bubble and face it head on, even though they knew what was best for themselves anyways? They step out and face it head on. Okay, like that's what that person does, but what do you want to do? Okay, I want to get started today. Okay, now you have that pre-handled. They want to get started today. Now you can finally pitch them. And once you pitch them, this is exactly how you do it. Here, this is how you pitch. You want to transition into the pitch once they have taken accountability and like they tell you that it's their responsibility to make that change and they want to make that change now. So you go in like this. Oh yeah, I was hoping you would say that because like, what I think what we have might work for you. Like, how you mentioned XYZ problem? Like that's been a problem for you for a minute, right? Well, we have pillar one, which is this service or this deliverable. So that way you don't have to worry about that pain that you were talking about. But like what that actually means for you is that, you don't have to worry about, you not spending enough time with your daughter. Does that make sense? See how I'm like tailoring this towards the pain points that they mentioned earlier before, or maybe the pain points that they mentioned inside, like, oh, maybe they don't know how to make sure that the lead quality is better, or maybe they don't know how to increase show up rate. As soon as they increase show up rate, that means they don't have to sit on their ass every single day waiting for a call to come in and hoping that they show up, right? Which makes them feel better, like making them feel like they're actually being productive and getting a bunch of calls in every single day, making sure that maybe close rate is better because they haven't been closing properly. They've been closing at a 10% rate rather than like a 50% rate like they want to. So like we pitch the solution the same way into 3 different pillars. So we do it 3 different times. And then what we do after that, we do more tie downs. We do more pre-handling here. The more pre-handling that we're doing, no objections are going to be left. All they're going to tell you is like, hey, just give me the payment link. So this is how you pre-handle the last one, right? So once you have pitched your service, ask the question like, hey, do you feel like if you had all of that support, do you feel like there's anything getting in the way of your success? Is it yes or no? If they say yes, it's like, okay, like handle that then. It's like, oh yeah, like what's getting in the way? I guess like, what do you feel like is not going to work out for you? Oh, it's this. And then you can kind of just like tailor your pitch to, re-pitch, go through the pillars again, and then, make sure that like they like it. And then once you've done that, go re-loop back to the question. Like, okay, if you had all the support, do you feel like there's anything getting in the way of your success? No. And then you ask the question, this is very, very important. This is the pre-handle. Are you 100% sure? Like if you had the support, the roadmap, and us working within your business, is there anything that comes in mind to like why you wouldn't be successful? If you've done the pitching properly, they're going to tell you no, like this would make me successful, right? And like curious more than anything, like what specifically about it makes you feel like, this would work out for you? Right? You're just doubling down on why they like the product so much, why they like the service, right? Perfect. And so long as things make sense and are doable financially, you genuinely believe that what we have, you like it, you genuinely think that it's going to be successful and it's going to help you go from point A to point B, and it's doable financially, like you're pretty much good to go with it. Yeah, of course. So now the only objection that you have now is logistical money. And how you can solve that is by having different ways of payment methods. Maybe you can have a split payment, or maybe you can have financing if they can't make that. And then finally, we just ended off with like, okay, so if the process makes sense and you feel like, it could help you, I kind of don't have anything more to cover with you. Where do you feel like we should go from here? And then you want to make them ask for the price. So, oh yeah, what's the price? Then finally, price dropping is very, very important. You guys to pay attention to this. After you drop the price, just stay silent. Like, do not try to justify why your price is fair, because they genuinely believe that what you have is going to help them. If they have the money, they're just going to ask for the payment link. Okay, yeah, let's go. Let's get started. Right? They have no objections left to handle. There's no fear. They feel confident, right? They know that they have to step into that uncomfortability and challenge themselves. They know what you have is going to help them. They're not going to tell you need to get started later. They're not going to tell you like, oh, what happens if it doesn't work, or this won't help me? We've already handled all of that. Like, we've handled all of the things to help them come to an educated decision, and we've closed every single door that they could have left. And the only other door that they have to go through is getting onboarded. If they haven't, like, literally, they're just going to be like, oh yeah, just send the payment link. Like, logistically, if they do not have the money, then that's when you do a payment link, or you maybe get them financed. But other than that, you've closed. Good job. So essentially, to just cap this entire thing off, right, we want to have a pre-call routine, have the agenda settings, set a good agenda for how the call is going to go, so that they're not coming onto the calls telling you, hey, like, just tell me what you do. They're not going to be doing that. You have their current state, where they are, desired outcome, where they want to get to, and what the consequences of not getting to that desired outcome is. And then finally, you know how to pitch properly, and you know how to pre-handle every single objection that is going to come your way. That way, at the end of the call, literally all they're going to tell you is, hey, let's get started. Let's go, man. Send the payment link, right? You know how to drop the price properly, and then you just close. So yeah, I hope that helped you guys. If you guys have any other questions, you can always leave them in the comments, or send me a DM over on the Instagram in the description. But if you guys have any other questions, like, hey, how do you actually set up the nurture video so they come onto the call and they're already closed? Like, they already come onto the call saying, just send me the payment link, man. Like, man, I'm already closed. Like, I've had people literally come onto the call telling me, dude, just send me the payment link. Like, just send it to me. And then I just send it to them and they just close. So how do we actually do that? I'm going to link that video over on the right side over here. So that way you guys can set up the resources and the nurture videos properly. But other than that, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. See ya.